the department. I see both the executive authority are present, the minister and the deputy minister, the committee staff, and all those who are part of this meeting. Welcome to the meeting today. Are there any apologies?
Good morning, honorable members, honorable minister and deputy minister and all our guests. Chair, we don't have any apologies. The members are all here. It's just Mr. Volmarans is trying to log in, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to talk about your apologies. There is an apology that I received from Ms. Makubalo and Mr. Maboda and Ms. Boss, that Makubalo and Maboda are already on load shedding. And Ms. Boss, it will start at 10. That may impact on their connectivity to the meeting. I think Honorable Malinga had also given the same yesterday, depending on the routine. Without any further ado, let me first that we are also meeting today after some serious and bad developments, including the incident that had taken place at Jachasfontein in the Free State, as well as the fact that as we speak now, we are on stage 5 from an immediate stage 6 load shedding, which poses a serious challenge, not just to society at large, but also in terms of the impact on and we hope that we'll be able a solution to be found much more faster. Without any delays, can we get the agenda, Ari? Okay, today we are dealing with it's a briefing from DMRE. And on the first, second, and third quarter reports, and then there will be a consideration of the minutes. I think we agreed, Ari, that even if it's not there, we will then deal with the correspondence at the end of the. In fact, at the end of before the minutes, we have got the correspondence. Having said so, Honorable Minister, can I give it to you to take us through the first, second, and quarter reports? And yes, I'm giving it to you, Honorable Minister.
I want you to see me. Okay. No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, members of the committee. We are going to ask the DG to marshal the team to talk to the quarterly report and talk to the financial report. Let me hand over to the DG.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, members of the committee, Minister, Deputy Minister, and colleagues on the virtual platform. The presentation today, Ndadam Lauzi, can you please fly the presentation. Thank you. The presentation today is with regard to the first, second, and third quarter of the financial year 2021-2022, which is basically the performance for the period March 2021 to December 2021. The presentation is mainly in three parts. It's summary of the performance results, the performance highlights, and the financial performance. The performance tables have actually been reduced into annexures, so we're not going to go into the details with regard to the performance tables. Next slide, please. At a high level, this table indicates the performance of the department over the three quarters. If we look at the first quarter, which is for the period up ending June 2021, the department had achieved 67 target for the second quarter, which is the quarter that ended September 2021. And for the third quarter, and is out of the 67 targets, that was for the period ending December 2021. As I'd indicated, we are not going to go into the details around the tables. The tables have been shared, and this table also reflects on the various branches or units in the department and their performance in relation to the total performance in the specified quarter. I will, Chairperson, then move to the next slide, which highlights. Next slide. This slide is just the graphic. The previous slide was just a graphic presentation of the performance along the quarters. In terms of the performance highlights for the quarters, this is the first quarter, which is the period ending June 2021. For the first bullet, there is a typo. Actually, the 176,000 connections that was at the end of the first quarter. For the first quarter, for this period, we had 10,000 households electrified through grid electrification. For non-grid, for that quarter, there were no houses that were connected, as the first quarter is generally used for contracting and for contractor mobilization in terms of the non-grid program. And during that period as well, the report was produced on our electricity energy efficiency demand side management program, which contained the plans that were submitted by the various municipalities. So generally, we'll notice that the first quarter tends to be a preparatory quarter for many of the programs that we run in the department. A report was also produced on energy-related climate change responses measures by the department. 5 carbon offset projects were approved by the department. We also produced a report on greenhouse gas assessment and reporting framework. A number of empowerment initiatives in the form of jobs and supporting of Black industrialists were also created, and the numbers are reflected on the slide there. We processed around 352 license applications with 91.76 compliance with respect to HDSA participation. And that's in the petroleum sector. 37 mining rights and permits were issued as well during that period. The department also produced a report on the monitoring of the Cuvette plant life extension that ESCOM is running, and this report generally flags if any risks that needs to be managed and the status of the project of this project. We 70% of authorized applications were processed for under the nuclear safeguard compliance, and we also produced 5 safeguard compliance reports. A total of 11 accident-initiated investigations were undertaken, and 12 were completed for this period. We can go to next slide. I'm not going to read through all the highlights for this quarter. These are the highlights, Chairperson, for the members for the second quarter. For the second quarter, we can report that from a finance point of view, there were no incidents of reported incidents of wasteful and fruitless expenditure under this quarter. There were no cases of fraud or corruption reported under this quarter. 34 SLP development projects were completed during this quarter. 304 licenses were processed. Again, this is for the petroleum sector. We developed for promulgation the regulations for clean fuels 2, biofuels, mandatory blending regulations, as well as the LP strategy. And these were published during this second quarter. The draft National Petroleum Bill was also developed and submitted to Cabinet for approval. We did a report on stakeholder consultation with respect to the greenhouse gas assessment and reporting framework that was produced. We developed a draft energy statistics report, which was later in the same financial year published. We connected 7,034 households through non-grid. We also electrified additional 29,687 households through grid electrification. 49 nuclear authorization applications were received, and they were all 41, and they were all processed and approved. Next slide. In terms of the third quarter, which is the period ending December 2021, these were the highlights. And out of the 411 invoices, 400 were paid within 30 days. We produced a report with detailed implementation of the PMRE fraud prevention plan. 60 mining rights and permits were issued during that period. We also published we completed the draft National Petroleum Company Bill. The department also participated in a number of events or conferences as listed on the slide below. Next slide. This is just a continuation of the third quarter highlights. During this quarter, 10 shafts were sealed off out of the 40 for the year. the full commitment at the end of the financial year was achieved under these targets. And the standard reporting on the KUBEK was also completed, and additional 63 nuclear authorization applications were received and processed by the department. Next slide. Chair, through you, Minister, I will now hand over to the CFO to present on the financial performance during those quarters. Over to you, CFO.
Thank you, DG. Greetings, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, Honorable Minister, DM, DG, and colleagues. I'll present the financial performance as at Q3 consolidated, which includes Q1, Q2, and Q3, starting from 1 April 2021 to 31st of December 2021. The slide in front of you, the first column is the budget by program. The full budget for the year is 9.241 billion. The year-to-date budget, which covers just the 3 quarters that we are speaking about, is 7.401 billion. We have spent at the end of December 6.9 billion. Just the year-to-date budget versus the actual that we've spent, we have not spent 482 million as of 31st of December 2021. Making up the 482 is administration of 80 million underspent, minerals and petroleum regulation of 19.8 million underspending, mining, minerals and energy policy development underspent by 41.6 million, mine health and safety inspectorate 25.4 million underspent. The biggest underspend is in programs and projects with 308.3 million, and I'll provide the reasons. Nuclear energy regulation and management 6.8 million underspent, which is about 6.51% of the budget. Next slide, please. Chairperson and members, it's the very same figures that I've presented now, but this time it's by economic classification. So making up the 482 million underspending, it's under compensation of employees. We are underspent by 56.8 million. Goods and services underspent by 80.6 million. Transfers and subsidies underspent by 328.3 million. Capital assets 16.3 million, giving us the full total of 482 underspent. I will now proceed to the next slide and provide the reasons for the underspending. The first one is compensation of employees. We were underspent by 56.8 million. And the reason for the underspending, it's mainly due to delays in filling of funded vacancies. As at 31st of December, our system reflected 1,432 permanent employees, 17 additional to the establishment, which is as a result of the merger that we went through. The department also employed 119 interns that are appointed additional to the establishment, so they are not part of the funded positions. As at the same period, the department had 168 vacant positions, of which 102 has been advertised. If I move to goods and services, we had an underspending of 80.6 million. The major contributors, amongst others, are travel and subsistence, which is 29.9 million. Underspending in venues and facilities. These are due to the reduction of the number of planned official trips and decreased utilization of outside facilities. Expenditure in office supplies was 9.8281 million, lower than anticipated due to the staggered physical office attendance. Underspending of 4.97 million in computer services. This was due to the finalization of the processes for software licenses, maintenance, and the upgrade of our systems. Next slide, please. Operating payments, we've also had an underspend there of 9.26 million, and this is for professional membership fees, storage of departmental records, awards to employees, the incentive that we pay to employees, and resettlement cost. Agency and support services was also underspent by 8.52 million, and this is for the solar water heating program. The procurement of additional components and installation kits had to be procured, and that process took longer than we anticipated. And this is mainly due to bringing the houses up to the correct building standards. In many instances, the houses were not up to standard, and these additional components had to be purchased to bring them up to standard for the installation of the solar units. Training and development, underspending of 7.68 million due to the delayed implementation of training programs. The lockdown limitation did place some limitations on the training that was attended in the first and second quarter of the financial year. Next slide, please. Chairperson and members, as much as there's been underspending, there's also been line items where we've overspent the budget. And this is in the area of audit and legal services, which was 2.71 million for audit and 8 million for legal services. Our audit went longer than anticipated. That was the first year of our merge that the audit by the AG was extended. And litigation and legal representation around the MPRDA applications and disputes. And we've also had many disputes and litigation by the solar water heating manufacturers. Operating leases, there was an overspending of 4.7 million. Historically, chairperson and members, we've always had a lower figure budgeted for office accommodation. But as the year proceeds, we do work the cash flow out, and we do a final environment to ensure that there's sufficient funding under this line item. So we do correct any negative variances before we shut off the financial year. And this was realigned. Next slide. Stay on the slide, please. Transfer payments, the net underspending was 328.38 million, which is the biggest variance. Making up that underspending is INEP municipal grant of 159.27 million. The underspending is due to the pending regazetting approval from Treasury. Chair, this is as at 31st of December 2021. Subsequent to year end, this has been rectified, and Treasury has approved the regazetting, and those payments have gone through accordingly. INEP municipal grants, INEP non-grid households, 11 million underspending. It's due to the delayed finalization of procurement processes. Here, Chair, we have a 3-year rolling appointment of the service providers. They've already been appointed into the system, but each year we do a new allocation to these service providers that have been appointed. But before we sign an SLA with that service provider, we do a compliance check, and which also includes the tax compliance. And in many instances, we did find non-compliant service providers around their tax issues, and we had given them time to rectify them. However, service providers have subsequently been appointed, and the implementation has commenced. International membership fees, it's overspent by 344,000, and this is due to, at the time we budget for membership fees, and at the time of payment, the time lag results in some forex differences. Employee social benefits, 3.83 million overspending due to an increase in leave gratuity payments. It was due to increased service terminations and higher than anticipated leave liability that was payable. Energy efficiency and demand side management municipal grants, 10.5 million underspending due to the pending approval of the reallocation of funds between municipalities. Subsequent to 31st of December 2021, the regazetting has happened and the payments have been dispersed. Management of water ingress mines, 5.42 million underspending. And this is due to our internal processes, and I'll explain in the next slide. Energy and water sector education and training authority, 1.23 million underspending due to the release of funds that was planned, but it was delayed due to some internal challenges we've had there. Chair, in terms of payments to public entities, we had 1,885 billion to be dispersed. We have dispersed 1,740 billion. We have underspending of 145 million. Council for Geosciences, 50.8 million. Mintech, 72.1 million. PASA, 22.1 million underspent. And next slide, please, and I'll provide the reason. Chair, the reason for the underspending is just the budget has to move from transfers to goods and services classification. And the reason it has not moved by 31st of December, the budgets are loaded on by National Treasury, and any adjustments to those figures are controlled by Treasury themselves. And that adjustment, where the system was opened and was processed in February 2022. So that would have corrected itself. With that, it brings me to end. Thank you, Chair.
That's the presentation, Minister. Back to you.
Chairperson, those are two-part presentation. I revert back to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I hear there's some khitli on your side. I don't know whether it's on my side, but I hope I'm audible enough from where I am. Honorable members, can I check, are there any hands? Honorable Bailem, Honorable Lorema, Honorable Malinga, Honorable Matogwe. Okay, can we do it this way? I'll start with Honorable Mailem, and then come to Honorable Malinga, then come to Honorable Matogwe, then come to Honorable Lorima. Is there anyone I'm leaving outside? Okay, Honorable Mailem, I'll come when Honorable Matogwe is done.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, first of all, I just want to make a comment, and I'd like to thank the department and the Minister for the presentation. But I'd like to make a comment, and that is this, that as much as we need to know about what has been achieved, we also need to know about what has not been achieved. And when the department does a presentation like this, we need to be taken through the key performance areas where they have not achieved their targets and the reasons why they have not achieved those targets. And so in that regard, I'd like to specifically pull a couple of things out. The first is there's been mention made of, and I accept the presentation as it is. I just want to clarify that it just doesn't go into detail regarding the not achieved targets. So, but I'd like to pull a couple of things out. The first is there's been mention made of the solar water heater program, and I'd really like an update as to where this is. We've been talking about it for the last 4 years that I've been on this committee. We've been talking about getting this off the books. What is the situation? Where is the equipment? And when is this finally going to be resolved? So that's question number one. Question number two, and maybe I need to address this to the Minister. And Minister, one of the challenges that we have with regard to electricity is the fact that our IRP, which was gazetted in October 2019, is based on outdated data and frankly, it bears no reality or it bears no resemblance to the reality in which we find ourselves. For example, the energy availability factor of Eskom's fleet is way lower than what is forecast in the IRP. Now, that necessitates an update of the IRP, and yet I see nothing in this performance assessment of any work being done on IRP modeling, IRP data, any progress report as to where that is. So Minister, I would really ask, can you give us an update of what is happening with an update to the IRP and when we can expect to see a new integrated resource plan to address the electricity crisis in South Africa? Then I do want to drill down into one last area, and that is the risk mitigation independent power producers procurement program. In the annexures, you show in Q1 it's achieved, in Q2 I think it's partially achieved, and then in Q3 it's partially achieved as well. Is the reason for that the fact that there's problems in that program? And could we get an update as to exactly what the status is of the non-compliant bidders in that program? In other words, those that have not reached financial close by the numerous hard deadlines that were announced by the minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to yourself, members of the Portfolio Committee, the Executive Authority led by the Minister, staff of the department led by the DG, and our committee staff. I hope I'm audible, Chair. I am suffering from load shedding. Chairperson, let me...
We'll hear you for now.
Okay. Let me welcome the presentation by the department. Chair, I am partly covered by Honorable Mailem on the solar water heater geysers. Chairperson, I just want to ask, is there a political will to have this project up and running? Because each and every time a performance gets presented before us, the solar water geysers, it's either there is no training venue, there are no kits for this solar water geysers. Chair, when we were still sitting physical, I think it was 2 years ago, some chief director said she was putting her head on the block. It's a pity because it's a woman. It's not right as a woman to talk about another woman in a very bad taste. Is that head on the block, Chair? What is the consequence management on failure to have this project up and running? Has there been anyone held accountable for the delays and all that? That's all I want to know, Chair. Chairperson, also on slide 18, is it wise to redirect funds from Mintech that is budgeted for derelict and ownerless mines to goods and services? Given what we are faced with of the illegal mining, people digging the shafts and all that, does the department feel that this is the correct way to deal with the issues? And this underspending, Chairperson, I don't think we should be pleased that the department is underspending, no matter the reasons might be. I know that Treasury will be happy that money gets returned to them, because if you're not spending the money, it gets returned. Why is this why are we allowing this underspending to happen, especially in the programs where we have sleepless nights in terms of this illegal mining happening, opening the shafts? Because I think that money is meant for Mintech to be able to close or rehabilitate this derelict and ownerless mines. Chairperson, lastly, I don't understand. We're still speaking about the merger of the old Department of Minerals and Department of Energy. I think this came to effect 2 years ago. Why are we still having funded vacancy is not filled. And the reason is due to a merger that happened 24 months or so ago. Who is not doing his or her job here? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. My gadget was just giving me problems. Apologies for that. I also want to welcome the presentation, but I also want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues here, particularly about how the report is not as informative as it is. I recall that even in the previous reports that were given, I specifically made requests that let us perhaps also get statistics of, if you are saying that you have issued so many mining licenses, how many are outstanding? What is the percentage? Same applies to the issue of black industrialists and all these things. And it does not seem that that is happening. To a certain extent, we're unable to check whether the work that has been done by the department is commendable, and it has been done. So it's just a request going forward that let us at least get a much more detailed report, specifically on work that has been done, because we will always be speaking about a backlog, but we do not know what that backlog is and whether we're making progress in that regard if we're not going to get those statistics. It is also important that perhaps the report also notes the challenges that the department has, not only what has been done right. I think another issue that I'd raised previously, which also has not really been addressed even now, it speaks about the inspections, environmental inspections, and also investigations of incident-related issues. I think it is also important that perhaps the committee must be appraised in terms of what were the overall outcomes and where there was intervention and where the intervention was not made, because it does not assist us to say, look, we did 450 investigations, for example, but we do not know out of those investigations what were the outcomes, what was the intervention of the department, and whether there were any challenges, especially considering the fact that right now we're having a lot of issues in relation to mining, the latest being the tragedy that had happened in Jagersfontein. So we must not sit here as a committee or even as the country thinking that things are under control, and we only wait until lives have been destroyed for us to see that there are serious issues. I think also I want to echo the sentiments of it does not make sense that we can actually get a report that there are vacancies in this department and that there's underspending because of vacancies, especially because we live in a country where unemployment is ripe and a lot of people, not just young people, but a lot of people are sitting at home with qualifications. Other people have settled for next to nothing jobs so that they can at least put food on the table. So if there's money and there's work that needs to be done, why are we not employing our people? I think that is extremely, extremely problematic, and perhaps the department must account to that regard. I think also I just want to understand in terms of the underspending as well, whether there has been any implications in terms of performance. For instance, did the underspending to a certain extent affect the department meeting some of the targets? And where there has been underspending, but the targets were met. And then perhaps the department must consider looking at whether they really needed to direct those funds there or whether they can be directed elsewhere, especially when there's no need. And I think also another one is I want to also echo the sentiments on Mintech, because I know that in the previous oversight that we had with them, Mintech indicated a number of times, by the way, that they had submitted a number of proposals to the department. They've requested a lot of money from the department. There's a lot of things that they are not able to do because they do not have the budget. So it is extremely disturbing to hear that actually there is money that had been initially budgeted for Mintech, and this money has then been redirected elsewhere. Especially considering the fact that that entity in particular is doing extremely good work and work that would benefit not only the department, but the country. I think that redirecting the funds, especially when the entity itself says, look, we need more money, we could actually do much better. It's extremely disturbing. Thank you very much, Chair.
Good morning. My first point is an observation about performance results. I see they are flatlining and in fact dipping across the three quarters, 68% success rate down to 67, down to 64. You may want to comment on that. Secondly, Honourable Madogwe is exactly right about the mining rights that have been issued. Reporting seems to be slightly bizarre. I see in the first quarter, you report 37 mining rights and permits issued to HDSA-controlled entities. Is it only a highlight when you issue a permit to an HDSA-controlled entity? Were there any other mining rights issued in that quarter? Our next slide, in the second quarter, we see that there's nothing on mining rights issued. Does that mean that none were issued? And then in the subsequent slide, in the third quarter performance, it says 60 mining rights and permits were issued to HDSA-controlled entities this quarter. It says a cumulative figure of 146 has been achieved. That's an accumulation across what? Across 3 quarters? Or was that all the rights issued in that quarter, including rights issued to HDSA-controlled entities? And then I, too, would like to know how many of those rights were part of the backlog. And when you issue rights at the moment, are you still issuing them as they come in, or are you only working through the backlog? So please tell us how you're doing that. Next, we move on to slide 13, where expenditure, the final point there, expenditure in office supplies was lower than anticipated due to staggered physical office attendance. Can you tell us whether there is still staggered office attendance, and if so, why, given that the COVID epidemic is over? Similarly, in the following slide, slide 14, there's talk about unforeseen or extra expenditure on additional office space. Can you tell us where that office space is? And if you still don't have people coming into the office, why are you needing to spend extra on office space? Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members, with the questions. Maybe just few areas. Thank you very much with the presentation, and which is for the first and second and third quarter of 2021-2022. Just few areas. Honourable Minister and the team, so that we can get clarity, taking note of what the honourable members have raised. In the first quarter, just the first part of the first quarter 2021 performance highlights, it says 176,837 households have been connected. Over 10,000 households were electrified with non-grid. And I think that's why probably honourable members have been requesting maybe a play out with regards to the issue of the electrification program. The second thing, if there can be just clarity whether is it in line with the issue of the National Electricity Program plan. 2, there is something that says, I'm not sure whether it's a correct reading. It says 1,508 jobs were created through the issuing of the mining rights. And then down the line, it then says 13 black industrialists. You know, this has always been what I would call a contested terrain. How do we define the issue of the Black Industrialist Program, especially now through the creation of mining? The difference, when you read again, it then says 37 mining rights and permits were issued to HDSA-controlled entities. at times there can be a blurring line between the mining rights and permits to SDSA and the creation of black industrialists through mining. It may not give the clarity that probably is needed. And then it goes on and say that 352 licenses, applications. And then it says, which is 50%. I'm not sure whether I understand the meaning of that. What does that mean? The license applications can be license applications, but are they in output? What is the output in terms of, especially with the heading above that said, where it says that there has been mining rights issued, which is 37, and the creation of jobs, because there must be an understanding whether these jobs in the first quarter is a result of the mining rights issued, which for me practically it's impossible that you can issue a mining right in the first quarter and that first quarter immediately produces 1,508 jobs. Maybe if there can be clarity on that part. Now, we have a crisis of energy. I think for me, that's where my interest is. Is the department probably willing to share the report on the monitoring of Quebec's blind life extension? I'm raising this thing because amongst other issues that we are informed as a consequence of load shedding is about the issue of Quebec. Maybe if we may have sight, if the department is comfortable of that report, so that we can see whether it talks to the reasons given by ESCOM, in particular in relation to the challenges as far as electricity supply is concerned. Let me just leave it at that, Honorable Minister and the team. I'm giving it back to you to respond on the questions raised.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I will do the most honorable thing and allow the team to respond to questions, and then I add to what has been left out. TJ?
Thanks, Honorable Minister. I will respond to some of the questions, and then, with your permission, I'll invite the DDGs on the platform to respond to other questions in their respective areas. Let me first start by acknowledging that we have noted the request for the report in future to be detailed and to contain both the highlights and the lowlights. That's an area that we'll definitely improve on in the next report that we'll bring to the portfolio committee. With regard to the solar water heater program, there was a question around consequence management. There is an investigation that is at final stages to determine exactly what happened with the program, how did we get here, and what needs to happen beyond this point. The investigation is done by KPMG through National Treasury. The conversation we had with National Treasury last week the indication was that we should be getting the final report by not later than the end of October. And that report will definitely guide what will happen next in terms of consequence management. And with regard to the colleague that was leading the program previously that Honorable Malinga referred to, the colleague has since left the department, is no longer with the department, and the program is being managed by a different colleague now. From a progress point of view, we went through a phase where we were making significant progress, and where we had moved the program significantly to the point where we had just around 15,000 of the solar water geysers on the roofs. The program then experienced a number of challenges, and some of them being that in some of the municipalities, when the leadership after the elections, some of the councils asked that the program get stopped, and then it must come and get presented so that they can understand what is happening on the program. That has led to some delays, but we also experienced delays with regard. The biggest delay was mainly from the fact that as we installing some of the solar geyser units, there were technical challenges with some of the parts supplied by the service providers, and we had to then get into a back and forth process that even involved the legal team to try and get around that process. But as we speak, there are installations happening in various municipalities. We have found a way around some of the challenges where basically for example, we have informed some of the service providers that we will use some of the retainer funds that were supposed to go to them to purchase or to replace some of the components that are giving us problems. So, Chairperson, I think the offer from our side is to come back to the Portfolio Committee with a detailed report on the program, to come and share with you the progress we've made and the challenges we are experiencing as we proceed with the program. On the IRP, the process of the IRP is not reflected in the report because this is a report from last year. But as we speak now, and the Honourable Minister pronounced a while back that the department will be revising the IRP, and that process has started. When we look at the fact that there's going to have to be public consultations, it is envisaged that this process could take us up to the end of next year, but we're hoping to complete the IRP earlier than that. With regard to the fact that some of the key assumptions in the IRP are outdated, we are alive to that, and hence the minister recently issued determinations outside of the IRP, where basically, for example, Eskom had put in a request to do 3,000 megawatts of gas at Richards Bay as a deviation from the IRP. The minister has issued that determination for concurrence by NESA. That determination is out in the public for public comments through the NESA process. I think that process is closing, if not closed already. I think it's closing it closed on the 16th. So NESA is definitely assessing the comments they've received from the public before they make a decision on the concurrence. We've also, outside of the IRP, issued a determination for 1,000 megawatts for Eskom to procure through what they call a standard offer, which is basically their proposal to mop up on existing capacity that is not being used by some of the generators or IPP in the space. And that determination as well is part of the process of concurrence by the regulator. So we are alive to the fact that the assumptions have changed, and there is a need to bring in more capacity faster than that. But in addition to that, the minister issued a determination for the rest of the capacity in the IRP, which equates to just over 14,000 megawatts of renewable energy and battery storage that was still in the current IRP for immediate execution. That determination is also with the regulator. It's part of the determinations that are being considered. But we in addition to that, we've also fast-tracking the procurement. You'd be aware, members, that we as in line with the pronouncement by the president, we have increased the capacity under bid window 6, and will be issuing, subject to concurrence by NESA, will be issuing additional procurement documents as soon as we receive a go-ahead. So yes, while the RP is being revised, there are initiatives outside of the RP to help close the gap. So it's not just the fact that the RP is not, the fact that the RP is still in the process of being revised has not necessarily stopped the department from ensuring that additional capacity beyond what is in the RP is procured. Just want to see the ones that I need to respond to before I give to colleagues. Let me give to Minister with your pen. Maybe let me talk to the risk mitigation. The difference in terms of achieved versus partially achieved has to do with the specific target, because a procurement program has got different stages, and you may achieve the first step and due to other challenges have delays with the next step, and then hence you find that in other quarters and other financial quarters, the report is partially achieved. It's specific to the milestone we had set ourselves for that quarter. In terms of the status for the program, the bidders have been given until the end of October to finalize their programs, as we had also indicated in the past, that there are things that are for us as government to take care of, and there are things that are for projects. It's a risk for projects to manage. Things like environmental authorizations are for specific projects to manage. From the government side, what has in the past delayed us is our readiness to put pen to paper or to sign the projects, and that has mainly been the delay in the past. Where we're sitting right now is that there are discussions with Eskom, and the discussions mainly center around some of the provisions that Eskom wants included in the PPAs, things like all the requirements, and this includes things like indemnities and because some of these requirements have got implications as well on the state. So there are bigger discussions with other departments, which includes National Treasury. Minister, with your permission, I will now ask DDG Makobela, followed by the CFO, and then DDG Corporate Services and Babu Mbambo to respond to the remaining questions. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, and colleagues. The questions that I'm going to respond to, first of all, I need to acknowledge the fact that we have recognized that our target setting, particularly in as far as clarity is concerned, needs to improve. So that is an acknowledgement that we would want to make here, because we've run into challenges with some of the targets. Then responding specifically to the issues raised by Honorable Matokwe, Honorable Lorima, and the Honorable Chair, there's been significant progress, I would say, in as far as dealing with the backlog is concerned. And perhaps we can provide the figures in terms of what has been achieved in terms of the mining sector. I can say that on the petroleum side, the backlog has been eradicated. So we don't have a backlog on the petroleum side at all. Now, what, in terms of the inspections, on the inspection side, as Honorable Matokwe has asked, I think going forward, we'll have to indicate what the trends, what comes out of the the inspections that we conduct, the challenges that we encounter, and we will try and make sure that we include that in our reporting. But generally, what we can report is that if one looks at on the petroleum side, the biggest challenge that we are encountering is the mixing of diesel with paraffin. And this is from people who want to basically avoid paying the fuel levy and the road accident fund and still profit from the sale of these products. So these are some of the things that we are dealing with. What we do, because SARS monitors those, we immediately report all those service stations to the revenue service so that they can then be able to collect the revenue that service station was trying to avoid. So that is something that we have issued to the retailers as well as the associations to say that going forward, this is what we're going to be doing, and we've been doing it now for a while. Now, on the mining side, I think the issue is, again, the delays in finalizing SLP projects. I think we tend to encounter that in the main as a challenge. And we then, of course, have to issue the directives in terms of those who do not comply. But what we then encountered in the quarters that we're reporting on were the challenges that were brought about by the COVID-related restrictions on construction, particularly of some of the projects, as well as the inability for people to meet, to consult on the SLP projects themselves and get agreement of all the stakeholders. So those were some of the challenges. But we will make sure that in next reporting periods, we specify perhaps just the trends to say this is what we're picking up. The issue of, I guess the other issue in terms of challenges in the mining sector is, in fact, it's on both mining and petroleum, is the issue of criminality. I think it is something that we encountered and continue to encounter. In what form? One, in the form of the theft of fuel from the pipeline from Durban to Johannesburg, and then general criminality in as far as illegal mining and the theft of cable from duly licensed operations. Coming to the question on the issued mining rights to HDSA, we focus on this in the APP because we want to monitor the level of transformation that is taking place in the sector. We do more in terms of mining rights that are issued if you then look at the sector as a whole. But I think this one was focusing specifically on those entities that are controlled by HDSAs. We can provide the figure in as far as the total number of mining rights that were issued, including renewals. I think it would be in the order of 400. If I can just give an estimate, but we can certainly for the 3 quarters provide the figure, but also going forward, we will then report on the HDSA focus, but then we can also report to say in total, out of this many mining rights, these were so many that were issued to HDSA. In terms of the focus, as asked by Honorable Lorima, in terms of the backlog. So our focus has been last year, as we had committed, had been on the clearing the backlog. And I think that we are doing as well as we can, given the limitations. There are provinces that are still, giving us challenges, particularly because of some of the vacancies that existed. But in as far as mining permits and sessions, we process them as they come in. So we don't just focus on the backlog in as far as those are concerned, but on prospecting and mining rights, the focus has really been on the backlog. If I can just explain the issue of the 352 applications that the chair has asked. So again, this is not the total number of applications. We focus on basically the 50%. So what we monitor is how many of the applications that we have processed have got ownership of 50% or more by HDSAs. And again, this is to focus us on whether we are making an impact on transformation. And what we've tended to find on the petroleum side is that the vast majority of applications that we receive in any case now are from HDSAs. However, they tend to apply for wholesale licenses. So these would be people who want to trade in, paraffin or LPG or diesel. But that's the vast majority of applications that we receive. And we are convinced that, those generally come from HDSAs. Excuse me. Then on the issue of the jobs, so the way we compute those jobs that has been enabled by us, it's basically the undertakings that are made in the applications. Now, I think that it is true that we can improve on how we actually compute these jobs. Because what we are finding actually is that the jobs that we report on generally tend to be less than the jobs that then ultimately get reported by Stats SA. So we do acknowledge that in as far as this is concerned, perhaps what we're reporting on is an underestimate, but it is based on the commitments that are made by applicants to us. So as we issue those mining rights, then we compute the jobs that would have been enabled by us finalizing that particular those mining rights. And then I think what the last one is that on the issue of Black industrialists, we've run into challenges there because there is a word that we had put in the APP called, which is create. And we have, come to a realization that we actually don't create, we enable. Because usually these companies are always, have already been created, and ours is to basically link them up with the various mining companies. So I think the language in as far as this year and going forward, we will have to correct that and no longer use create, but use enable. I will leave it there. Thank you. Thank you, DG. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. I'll provide some responses. Honorable Malinga and Honorable Madokwe raised around the funding around Mintech. I want to confirm, Chair and members, that the department has gone through a rigorous process with National Treasury, which also included the AG, in terms of the classification of this funding. The funding will remain intact. It will be used for its intended purpose. It will only be used by Mintech. It's not going to be used by any other expenditure in the department, and it remained as such until we closed the financial year end. So all the funding that was for Mintech was used by Mintech. The final classification to move it from transfers to goods and services is controlled by a circular issued by National Treasury, and we have to conform. And to make that adjustment, to take it out of transfers and to, as you saw in the presentation, I showed to you that it's underspent in one area, and to move it from that area requires Treasury's approval, and they only gave us permission and opened the system in February to make that adjustment. So it's just a movement of funding from one area to another, but the intention of that funding and the use of the funding remains for Mintech. That's the first clarity that I wanted to provide. And the second one, Chair, additional to establishment, yes, under compensation of employees, as of 31st of December 2021, we had 17 people that were additional to the establishment. And this emanated from the merger, and it will remain with us until these employees are placed. We have a time lag because we are presenting the results as of 31st of December 2021. Subsequent to that, we have most of the employees placed. So until it comes down to a nil, we will have to raise that. These are the additional officials that we carry in our system. Chair, in terms of the underspending that has been raised by a few members, the underspending has been addressed in part in the last quarter of the financial year. So there's additional spending to bring it up to speed in many projects and in many areas in the last quarter. And because we are presenting now at 31st, there is that time issue, the timing, that when we do come for Q4, we will present those results. Thank you, DG.
Thanks, CFO. Ms. Mhlongo? Yeah, it looks like Ms. Mhlongo has got network issues. Chairperson and members, honorable members, Ms. Mhlongo was going to respond to the issues around vacancies in the department. I can indicate that we have moved with speed since this report, which is from last year, to fill many of the vacant posts. Part of the delays with the filling of posts previously had to do with the duration it was taking for confirmation or for vetting of those that we needed to make offers to. But that bottleneck has been resolved, and we are seeing movement in terms of the appointment or the filling of vacant posts in the department. While I have the platform, Chair, I'll also respond to two other questions, which I believe would be the last two, unless we missed the others. It's the one around the question around INEP and the numbers. As I indicated in the beginning of the presentation, that the number for the first quarter was actually, we had connected 10,000 households. The 176,000 is actually the cumulative number for the fourth quarter of the preceding year, which was 2021. In relation to what we had as a target, we had a target of 180,000, but we achieved 176. And some of the challenges with on the ground that we're experiencing with the program, obviously, is what affects many of the infrastructure programs, where some of the local business forums would stop projects demanding a share of the projects. They include sometimes municipalities where they're implementing the program taking too long to appoint service providers. So there are a number of challenges that the program experienced, but we are working very closely with the implementing agencies to make sure that the numbers are not significantly impacted. With regard to our target of universal access, we have previously indicated that this is mainly a function of the budget. So the implementation of the program at times does get affected by budget implications. But we've also seen underspending specifically on the ESCOM program, and this is mainly due to the fact that many of the projects are no longer simply connecting households. They require first that the bulk infrastructure must be put in place. And the bulk infrastructure generally takes about a year to 2 years. So those delays are also impacting on the rate at which we can, those challenges are also impacting on the rate at which we need to be electrifying households. But there's also another part of this puzzle when it comes to reaching universal access, is that the target has become a moving target, mainly because of migration, where you'll find that you've electrified villages in Northwest or in the Eastern Cape, but then people chase opportunities. When they go and settle next to a new development, obviously the area initially becomes an informal settlement, and then eventually after promulgation or probably by municipality, that area has to be supplied with services. So the number you'd have noticed that if you go through the Stats SA number, at some point we had a access sitting at about 90%. We have now gone down to about 87% as a result of this movement. The last point, Chair, that I want to respond to is the question around the department willingness to share the report on Quebec. I think, Chair, we will have to come back to the portfolio committee, and mainly because our report is based on input and reports from ESCOM, which are submitted to the department in confidence. So we will engage ESCOM and the regulator, because we also engage the regulator, who also do their own assessment and give their views as to their appetite or for us to share the report with the portfolio committee or the public, and then we will then make a decision at that point, Chairperson. Back to you, Minister. I think we have responded to many of the questions we needed to.
Thank you, DJ. Those are the answers, but I will just comment on a few of them. Honorable Melam, we are revising the RP, and we are going to revise it. Not because data is outdated, because time is moving and things are changing. You are correct, the energy availability factor of ESCOM has gone low, but connected capacity of ESCOM has not gone low. It has gone up by 2,000 megawatts, now 48,000 megawatts that is connected capacity. But energy availability factor is low. I agree with you there. The issue, therefore, the modeling of the IRP is underway. There's work being done there. It will come out. You will be part of actually commenting on it and adding value to it. That's my assumption. The next thing I want to comment is there any political will to implement the solar heater project? The DG has already responded that Mukhadi will put the head on the block as left the department. Because when I came to the department, and I made it clear to this committee that is one of the worst projects I have ever seen in my life, but we're going to try to take it out of the hole and implement what we can implement. And I think we're busy with that. The third issue is redirecting funds from Mintech. And Honorable Malinga says, responsible for the derelict and ownerless mines Why do we do it? No, that's not the primary responsibility of Mintech. Mintech is a mining and mineral research institution. That's its primary responsibility. It is assisting in managing rehabilitation and particularly directed at ownerless and derelict mines. So not all its budget go to ownerless and derelict mines. Big part of its budget goes to research, mining and mineral research. For rehabilitation, our department, not Mintech, gets 140 million rand per annum. That's all we're having. We're not having a Mintech budget to rehabilitation. We're getting 140 million rand, which we're using. And I think we should begin to understand that in details, because sometimes people will tell me that there's 50 billion rand for rehabilitation, but I'm putting it to the committee. We are getting 140 million rand per annum for rehabilitation as a department. And then comes the issue of there are too many issues in mining, including Tagafundi. Again, it's an issue of our portfolio committee not following developments in the sector. The Slimes Dam are regarded as water. They are given to the Department of Water and Sanitation. We will be involved in getting it right, but it is in the water and sanitation because of the Kruger-Berkeley judgment in December 2007. I was far from here. I didn't have even a sense that I will ever be here, but I take responsibility. That's why we're taking an initiative to meet the judiciary of the Free State. We have a discussion because there are many slime dams in the Free State. If we allow the mistake that was committed in 2007 to persist, we are having a big risk in the Free State Conference on this matter. I think those are the few issues that I wanted to add. The rest, DDGs have responded to them. Thank you. Back to you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Minister and the team. Are there any follow-up questions that members want to take? Is it your leak as I had, Honorable Matobe?
Yes, it is, Chair. Sorry.
Okay, is there any follow-up or any new questions? Going one, going two, going three. There are no further questions. Honorable Minister, I think what we must agree, so that when we come back to the department, is to say all the requests that members do. We will request the community staff research and the content to just put in place those issues that we raised, so that when the department is then reacting and the program that will be developed around those areas, at least the department is also informed in terms of the areas of focus. For instance, the fact that the response says in terms of the IRP process, it is underway and so forth. I think it's something that can be shared, but there are other issues that relates to the report in terms of a practical submission, which the DG says will be able to respond to. We will try and work so that DG, you are within a particular frame of that response, rather than because the risk is high. You may give us and then we then say, that's not what we meant. We wanted this in this format. But we will be able to come back to the department in relation to the areas that are highlighted. In the absence of any questions, then I think we can release the department so that we go to the next item. Do you have any last words, Babungkati?
No, we'll meet you tomorrow. We're in Parliament tomorrow answering oral questions. We'll meet you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay, now you can go now and address some memorial lecture. I can see it's a festival of memorial lectures. You are
Honorable Mailam.
You are released, Honorable Minister, and your team and the Deputy Minister.
I'm greeting Honorable Mailam.
You'll see your friend tomorrow.
Okay.
Greetings, Minister.
Okay, Ari, can you start with the minutes?
Sure, Chair.
Is the minutes of the 30th, number 1. We deal with the opening, then there's a briefing, discussion, are the minutes a true reflection? Any mover? Any mover of the minutes of the 30th?
I move, Chair.
Okay, any seconder?
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any matters arising? Honorable members, can we put aside what is raised? There is a letter that we received, which I think we will share with every member of this committee from which is again a letter of complaint from Makua Amoa. Can we relate that letter when we are here and then deal with that letter as part of the way forward? But I'm sure we all know that we have not yet agreed on how are we going to tackle this matter going forward. I hope we will be able to share with honorable members in terms of the contents of what I'm not sure whether we want to deal with it now, the way forward with regards to what Makua Amoa had raised with the committee. Or we deal with it also under the letter that they have received under the correspondence and then agree how to tackle it. Can we do that, honorable members?
Agreed, Chair. Can we deal with it in under correspondences? Thank you very much.
Okay. Next minutes, Ari. Okay. Let's go. Now you go to 2, 3. Yes. Okay. Okay. Is there a move of the minutes?
Chair, I move for the adoption of the minutes, Chair.
Is there any seconder?
Am I allowed to second myself, Chair?
I've never heard that part.
Second, Chair.
Okay, matters arising. Can we go up, Ari? The first issue, I'm sure the issue of the legal service is going to be tabled when we deal with that's what we agreed, when we deal with the upstream petroleum resources development bill, and that's what we'll deal with the latter. We still have to check the issue of the correspondence from why do we schedule it from outer. With regards to the issue of the letter from Mr. Langa, I'm still liaising with the chairperson of Rural Development, Agriculture and Land Reform to then look at how are we going to handle the complaints, because the complaint in the main, it's more also about what do we call? It's more also about the problems with their offices, original offices. With regards to Jagersfontein, honorable members, because this was an emergency, we hope you will agree with us. We are finding a better way where we can fast track this issue so that before we go and recess, if it is possible, it could be tabled in Parliament. We therefore request your indulgence that if it needs be or we can we please shift it agree that probably even before the end of this week, it will depend how much time we need. At least we put it for the attention of the committee, a draft report, and then find a way to speed up in terms of polishing up and then submit it, because it is an urgent matter. It's a matter of emergency. And see whether our principals, that is the Chief Whips Forum, if it arrives there, the programming committee can be able to find a way of dealing with the matter based on the fact that it is not a report that can stay for too long. That is what we wanted to appeal or request to committee members. So those are the three areas, honorable members, I think for me when it comes to matters arising. Yes. Is there any take from members on even on other matters with regard to matters arising? You are too quiet.
What is covered, Ben?
Yeah, you must say that you agree. I can't assume that silence means consent.
We agree.
Is there any support for? Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Mahlaule. Now, Ari, I'm not sure whether is it possible to get flighting the letter from Makua, but honorable members, we received a letter, and I must say, I'm trying my level best to do what I think it can reasonably be done. We just received the letter from Makua. One of the things that they were complaining about, leave the fact that they say they have to reconsider how they interact with the committee. The letter in the main one complains about the fact that we went to Jagersfontein without informing them. And that the community there was complaining that we didn't inform them. Two, I'm just summarizing that we went to the areas where, especially in Velcom, again, without them being informed and agree, and they received the notice very late, based on the fact that they were given assurance that one, the committee will give them every time we go on oversight a right to have to be informed. Two, I'm just summarizing. Two, that we, as a committee, we will give them the venues and times in advance. One of the last allegations then was that, if I'm putting it clearly, one of the last issues was that we went there to, instead of talking to the people, we decided to go and talk to the industry or to the companies responsible for this. Now I'm placing this so that the committee could, yes, that is the letter. You can read it, Ari.
Good morning, Mr. Luzupo. We write to express our great disappointment at the manner in which we were excluded from the recent oversight visits undertaken by the PC. During our previous discussions, we were led to believe that we would be advised, if not consulted, on areas and communities with which to engage during oversight visits, or at the very least be included or allowed to participate in such visits. During the latest oversight visit, we noticed the very late notice, Thursday, 15 September 2022, about a meeting in Jagersfontein that was to take place the following day, Friday, the 16th of September. The extremely short notice did not leave us much time to organize our community representatives, as we had planned a meeting with the community on Saturday, 17th September. So we essentially missed this oversight meeting due to the short notice. During our own meeting with the community on Saturday, 17th September, many community members expressed anger and frustration at their exclusion during the PC visit to their community on the Friday, and we have undertaken to engage the PC further on their concerns and frustrations. Our members managed to track down the details for the visit to the Welkom area on the Saturday, 17th September, despite us not receiving details of venues, etc. However, when our members arrived to participate in the meeting with the PC on Sunday, 18th September at the Roodepoort Civic Center, as advertised, we were told that the PC had left early in the morning and were not planning to come back. It is thus our members' experience that they have been deliberately excluded, in that the PC was more interested in meeting with mining companies and the DMRE, the very same parties who are delinquent and who have engineered the current crisis, while communities who have to suffer the impacts and consequences of these parties' failures have once again been left out of the conversation. We had high hopes that our relationship with the PC had turned a corner for the better, but our latest experience has once again left a bitter taste in the mouth. We have indicated that we hope and intended to engage constructively with the PC, but if our members continue to be marginalized and excluded through these processes when issues that affect them are discussed, then we will be left with very little choice but to adapt our strategies accordingly, so that the voices and interests of affected communities are taken seriously and given priority. We hope that this was merely a learning curve in our budding relationship, and that in future oversight visits and engagements with the industry are done in an open and transparent manner that that is inclusive of structures such as Makua and Wamua. We look forward to feedback in this regard. Yours sincerely, Christopher Radlich, Makua Wamua.
Yeah, there it is, honorable members. Maybe we need your guidance and your counseling. Because for now, we have not yet also responded on how are we going to deal with the issues that were raised with the committee. I see the hand, is it your hand of Honorable Malinga? Is there any other member? Because this is not a matter of the chairperson, it is also a matter that relates to the committee. And the Committee of Parliament is not only constituted by its chairperson. We were trying to manage this relationship, but probably there could be something different. I see the hand of Honorable Malinga, the hand of Honorable Volmarans. Is there any other member who wants to have a take? I see the hand of Honorable Matogwe. Okay, can I give Honorable Malinga, Honorable Matogwe, and then Honorable Volmarans?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. If Mr. Coetzee can flight the letter on the screen, it will be much appreciated. But I will talk solo. Chairperson, we do not report to Makua and Wamua. We appreciate management talking to them, trying to iron out whatever issues that they have with the portfolio committee. But Chairperson, they can't now come and accuse us of doing things, whereas they held us hostage in every, public hearings that we undertook. We don't report to Makua, we report to Parliament. Yes, committee meetings of the portfolio committees are open to the public and stakeholders are engaged. But I don't think that we need to ask permission from Makua to move our feet. And Chairperson, remember, when we went to Yagasfontein, we did not arrange any meeting. The meeting, Tina, we went to see the maybe let me not talk about logistics. We met with the people in that library. And it's not our problem that Makua was not part. Chair, in Welcome, they were part. Was it Welcome or Rodeport where they said they are mining gold in their yachts? I think it was Rodeport. So I'm not sure what is it that they're talking about, that they were not part of the meeting, because you remember that guy in a white duke said they need a mine, they must mine. Where would they have spoken about that if they were not in the meeting? So my Chairperson is that as much as we want to listen to the grievances of Makua, but they can't hold the committee account as if now we account to Makua and Wamua. They are not the only stakeholders in this portfolio that we are serving to. I've never heard of any other stakeholder saying that when you move, you must tell us. We don't move to tell Makua. We move to do our oversight on the department. They shouldn't put us in the middle of their beef with the department. If they have genuine concerns about the department, we will follow them up. But it's not as if that we need to give our itinerary to Makua. And each and every time the portfolio goes out, the Chairperson issues the statement. There are what do you call jingles that are going out on all medias. So who should babysit that Makua? And no, Chairperson, Makua is taking advantage of us. And the Chairperson, we need to correct this. If they have a problem with the department, we are not the department. We are the portfolio committee. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think my contribution as well, I think my understanding is that we have not as yet responded to the presentation, or rather the requests that were made by I think it's both organization, Makua and Mauma, in regarding to the issues that they were raising. So because the letter here now, it says that they were led to believe that they would be advised or consulted. So they are working on information that has not by ourselves as the portfolio committee confirmed. And I think perhaps it's important that when we respond to this correspondence of theirs, we need to inform them that we're still to deliberate on our discussions and all the letters that they've sent to us. We have not made any decisions as the portfolio committee. Secondly, I would like to think that there are various other organizations that are dealing with communities, not just these two. And perhaps I don't understand. The letter gives an impression now that we are supposed to only be informing them, or they're supposed to be direct invitations to the MACUA specifically on all oversights and all activities of the portfolio committee, which I do not think is correct. But what we should actually take as a lesson as the portfolio committee, because this is not the first time that these issues have been raised, especially on oversights, that we are not doing enough to inform the communities. Outside MACUA, in most cases, communities would say, look, we did not know that there was an oversight. Information is sent to certain people. And I think perhaps there must be some sort of a case study that is done by ourselves so that we're able to improve, because the issues that are raised in this letter, as much as MACUA has made it about themselves, but it's issues that have been raised over and over again about how we're conducting oversights and how we're issuing information. And I think perhaps that's something that we need to look into and improve, because the reality is that if we're saying that we need to go and engage the public must be aware of us and when we are coming, and perhaps we must also be much more hands-on, because I remember the last time the information that we got was that logistics are mostly done by the municipalities and not necessarily us. But when we see that there are shortfalls, it is extremely important as the portfolio committee to actually now start being hands-on, so that we make sure that as we're doing these oversights, people that we're supposed to be engaging with are aware and they're able to come to those meetings. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Volmarans.
Thank you very much, Chair. Once more, Chair, let me greet everybody on the platform. Chairperson, I want to align myself with my colleagues who have spoken on the matter, based on the fact that not so long ago we received sort of an audit that was done by MACUA as their own initiative, not appointed, not contracted by anybody. Now, the courtesy of us listening to them, they are trying now to take advantage, Chairperson, on oversight that we are supposed to do. So I think up to so far, with everything that we have been given by MACUA, the hostility at first, and the moderate attitude, and now the unexplained expectation that they are trying to put on us, as if we've got to ask permission, like we do ask permission from the House to go on oversight. I think they are putting themselves in that corner as to we must now ask permission. We have acknowledged what they have said. We are still going to discuss what their other representations are about. The last thing that we would want to do is to be held to ransom by themselves, or to be blackmailed by themselves, but also to understand the difference between our oversight and our public hearings, because 90% of the public hearings that we have had, they have been part and parcel of it, either by way of their own initiative or by way of our doing a public notice or sending people from Parliament as advance in as far as teaching them about what we are going to come through. Our own oversight is oversight for the purposes of us compiling a report that goes to Parliament to be discussed and so forth. So it cannot be mixed with the expectations of MACUA. While we respect that they are representing people, I just think that it is unfortunate that the impression is now created on two issues, that when they went to a meeting in Jagersfontein, they are turning things around as if the community is decrying we came there and they were not there. And we have seen the community. It is within our program to say we are visiting the place to see the devastation that has happened, but because there's a community, let us also talk to them. I think that we did. Secondly, our program on the 18th was exactly that, to get to Roodepoort, to get a briefing from the JOC, and to get specifically to the areas identified where the problems lie. It had little to do with whether they are present or not. It is courtesy that we said, let us involve all the stakeholders. We ended up in a community meeting where the community gave us their issues and so on. So I'm satisfied, Chair, with the rate that we are doing, but I'm not happy about the impression that Makua is trying to create, which is similar to the first instance, where they want to put the blame on everything that they cannot do on us as a department, vis-a-vis, on us as a committee, vis-a-vis their skirmishes with the department. And by their own admission, through their own representatives, they are telling us they are involved in the illegality that we are trying to deal with. And they want to make as if it is artisanal mining. So in future, I want to agree with the sentiment that I've always had, that these NGOs or representatives will end up trying to formalize themselves into being part and parcel of either the committee and or the department in fighting their battles, which are mostly individuals parading as if it is the community. So I'm happy that at some stage we are going to discuss the submissions of Makua, but in as far as this letter is concerned, it is devoid of any truth. And we are as surprised as them if they are surprised about or disappointed about our interaction. We are disappointed about their disingenuity in terms of how they treat us or how they expect us to treat them. Thanks, Chairperson.
Chair, can I come in? When I had a problem of load shading when we were still noting, and so my network was very bad.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't. I was saying that I'm closing, but now I see that there's your hand. You have forgotten. Can you come in?
No, thanks, Chairperson, man. Greetings to colleagues in the Portfolio Committee. Chair, I think this issue of Makua and Wamua is quite unfortunate. Firstly, I must say that they are not being entirely honest. And I think we would need to respond to Makua accordingly and Wamua. Firstly, we have been lenient on them. They've abused this portfolio committee for quite some time. When we're having public hearings on the gas amendment bill, they were at the forefront of the disruptions. We have tried all means possible to be reasonable with Wamua and Makua, but they are not coming on board. I think we need to respond to them in a manner that Wamua and Makua are not the only community representative out there, if they are, which is an issue that moving forward we need to look into. And I am tempted to agree with something that was said by the minister in the past, that while mining is the longest running industry in the country, but it is misunderstood. Because Wamua and Makua, they want to act as if this portfolio committee accounts to them. When that is not the way, we don't account to Makua and Wamua, we account to Parliament. And I think there are assertions and insinuations that they've been making that we account to them. We don't account to them. And when we do public hearings, when we do oversight, I think the support staff will guide on that. The consultation that is done with municipalities is done with the Office of the Speakers, which is the one that is responsible to communicate with all other stakeholders. So they can't act, which I'm fundamentally opposed to their approach. They can't act as if they are the only community representative. And I think that DMRE in the past would said we must attend to this matter once and for all, Chairperson, that any group of individuals can constitute themselves and come and say we're a community structure or a community representative. I think it's just easy to call yourself a community representative. So I think we need to have a clear guide and a clear policy on what constitutes a community representative organization. Because in future, we'll have 1,000 of community representative organizations that they represent the same communities. And I wonder if the communities that Wamua and Makua says they represent, are they aware that there are people who are speaking on their behalf? Because you find in a community of more than 1,000 to 2,000 people, a structure of 20 people claims to be representing that whole community. It can't be. So I think that we need to have a clear policy saying this is what would constitute a structure that represents the community. If they are based in a ward, is the councillor aware that there's such a structure? If they are based in the municipality, is the municipality aware that is a structure? But worse off on, is that community that is being claimed to be represented aware? So I think we need to tighten the screws around the community structures. But in closing, Chairperson, what Makua is saying is a pure lie, is a pure distortion of what had happened. And by the way, we don't owe Makua anything. We are not representing Makua and Wamua. We are representing all the people of South Africa, including them, not exclusive of them, including them. And the fact that I don't take kindly to the fact that they want to threaten this portfolio committee, that if we don't engage them in a way they want to be engaged, they are going to go back to that disruptive behavior of theirs. So I think when we discuss their presentation, we need to zoom into the persistent ill discipline and conduct of Makua that seeks to hold this committee of parliament into ransom. We're not going to be held into ransom by anybody. I think that message needs to be communicated to Makua. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable members, can I make this request? One, we were supposed, and I think let's say this, the committee agreed that when we were dealing with the adoption of the program, that we must find a way to resolve the Makua issues based on our issues, on our request, so that when we deal with their substantive issues, we would have taken them through so that there can be a common understanding. And like we said, even in the meeting, when other members were raising the issue that, and I think we might have a common understanding because we thought we've resolved our issues, we clarified them. When we were compiling the report on what they have raised and we're then dealing with the issues on how do we then deal with the issues going forward, we're going to then say to the committee, these are the developments. Like we said, we convened a main committee. We took them through all the issues that they had raised. And we said, it's not a question of going back, because I think it's important even to share in advance. One of the things we did was to ask the content advisor to take them through the rules of parliament and what is the role of committees and how committees operate, what is within and what is outside their mandates, and even the fact that how committees are constituted. There is a detailed report taking them through the rules. And because some of the issues they were raising, they were completely, like we said, it was a complete misunderstanding, probably, how committees. And we wanted to have a genuine discussion based on facts. That this is what a committee, for instance, a committee of parliament, they meet only once a week, maximum is 2. And for that 2 days a week, it is only from one of the few committees. Maybe the earliest committee is the majority, 9:30. But most of the committees is 10 o'clock. We meet from 9 up until 12:30. And at times we can finish at 1 o'clock. So generally, there was a take them through and what is happening. and I thought even myself were resolved. We dealt with the mandate of committees and in terms of what is the performance. And therefore, my view is that if we are allowed to engage with them, it must also move from that premise in terms of the rules of parliament, because a discussion that is superficial doesn't help. In terms of the rules of parliament that we had to deal with them on, which one, according to this, that we have breached? Common practice is that, and I think honorable members are correct, common practice is that an oversight of the committee remains an oversight of the committee. You decide who, because the people who are accounting to this committee is the department. Doesn't change, it's the department. If the committee then feels that from what the department has been telling us, now on an oversight, we must go and listen to this. That's what the committee can do, and it conducts its work independently of influence. One of the things we raised with them is that a committee is not a recognized body because it is a committee of parliament. You can't sit as a committee of parliament and recognize entities outside the state. For instance, if it's trade unions, if it's trade unions and they write, you recognize that person. And I made an example, for instance, of ESCOM, that when we went at Quebec, there was NUM, and the CEO said, no, they know the structure of NUM, said, the Committee of Parliament can't make a determination on a structure. It makes a determination on the matter brought to its attention, even if it's an individual. So when you undertake an oversight and you say there's this matter that has been raised, let me go and invite that person or those people, you don't say who are they. You attend to the matter because these are elected public representatives. They are not elected representatives of constituencies. And that's the issue that we clarified. One of the things we said, if you look at other interested parties, what they do, they have what is called parliamentarian officers, or they've got what is called parliamentary offices. Labour, for research, for example, Labour, they do have parliamentary offices. What they do every time a committee of parliament adopts a program, and that's what we said, they should consider every time a committee of parliament adopts its program from the before recess, when it starts, and up to recess. They look at what are the areas they may have an interest on. If, for instance, we are going to an area we are dealing with the social and labor plans, they should say, no. Where you are going, we are dealing with an area where it's purely the best because it's a multinational, whatever the case that may be. But if you want to look at the West, we will advise you, go here and there. It is up to that committee to decide whether it chooses which one. There is nothing wrong. I even made a joke. I said, Parliament is a site of struggle. You influence. But what can happen is when a committee of parliament now must be dictated to what to do. So without going in any further detail, I want to request again, honorable members, so that we come with something concrete. Is either we don't agree with Makua on what they want the committee to do, regardless what are the rules and procedures of parliament. If members agree, well, then we'll again submit the report, and especially when we deal with what then is supposed to be the way forward and to handle their issues. 2, I take the point, Honorable Matogo, when we're doing public hearings, that's what this committee said. It said we need to look at, are there no other mechanisms that can assist us to ensure that there is maximum participation. The problem with what we said is that the truth of the matter is that, let's be honest, who can do that? You can't go and say, Ayanda must leave the work of the committee and go because we are going to Mpumalanga. I'm making an example. Go to Mpumalanga, tell people in that area that we are coming. The reason we're saying it's at a local government level is that the municipalities are the ones, in terms of corporate governance, that are supposed to be interacting directly, including assisting us, because if I were to say somebody who stays in, if I say Honorable Volmarans must come and identify in the Zululand region in KZN, a venue, and most of those things are done by the staff. We said it would help if they can, there's nothing wrong. The openness of a process of parliament is that when we meet, they have a right to request that we are Makua, Amoa, we are interested in this meeting. Ayanda, can you give us the link, or can you give us the link? They can enter in the meeting even now when we are discussing today and say, we know that the committee today was deliberating on 1, 2, and 3. Our view, this is what we think it can be done. And if we go to this area, say, we will assist that if you are going to Zululand, go to Ulundi in this area, in this township in Ulundi, you will get people who will be affected. So the point is, there is no doubt about finding a mechanism that can help us. But a committee of parliament with a staff that the majority of them may be far away from Cape Town, they can only be familiar with their own area where they come from, or with Cape Town, because that's where most of the time they are based. So that issue is a matter that I think internally is agreed by the committee. But what you can do as a committee of parliament is to prioritize one entity at the expense, one formation at the expense of other formations, and say, when we have got this activity, so we must give so and so. But in a nutshell, if honorable members allow, that before we deal on how do we process the issues that we raise, can we be given through the management committee meeting, can we be allowed now to have a last engagement with them and then report back to the committee and be clear whether do we agree in relation to recognition of the rules of parliament, or do we really disagree on the basis that that's how they want things to be done? Because those are two different things. To understand the limitations of and the constraints of the parliamentary processes, as well as understanding what do they want. Because like I said with them, I said, there's no way we can tell them how they should run their meeting. There's nothing wrong, for an example. If we go to Jagersfontein, we come with our own findings, because we are doing the work of parliament, our own findings. They go to Jagersfontein on a Saturday, like they say, they get their own findings. We can't then say, no, you can't go to Jagersfontein when the Committee of Parliament on Mineral Resources and Energy have not informed us. We can't tell them that. Equally, we decide as a committee where to go. And if they join, that's what we said, if they take this information, if they've got committees and say, we will want if you take a oversight on this, or do an oversight on this, and it is the committee independently that will take its decision. Any institution and any entity can do so. Public formation. The last thing is what Honorable Malinga was saying. The fact of the matter is that you can't go to and say you are convening a meeting of the public or community. You then have got people that you treat them privately, separately. A committee of parliament, when it goes there, that's why you can't send to trade unions. They have got the right labor to say, we know that you are going to a particular mine. Please note that our delegation will be there and will observe in the same way they observed when they are attending a committee of parliament. But it can't be, no, you can't go there because you are this union, that is a majority union. If you are going there, you must go via us, tell us that you are going there. That's not how parliament goes, because every individual, every South African citizen has got a right to be heard by a committee of parliament, not structures. It's a separate matter to deal with stakeholders, also to get their consent on a major area of concern or activity. That becomes a different platform. But equally, that structure can write to the committee and say, because of this particular situation, this is what we want to brief you and make you aware of. So without going into details, if members agree, and then we will then report back together with what is then supposed to be a discussion on the way forward. I just need to get whether I might give the last mandate or I must just leave it to committee.
No, Chair, I've not raised my hand, but I'm on the platform already. My apologies, Chair. I think we should agree that we give you that mandate and latitude. However, we also would want you to be cognizant of the facts that the participants, my colleagues, have raised on the way we feel abused by this relationship. Take note of that and let it be at the back of your mind as you engage with them and management, Chairperson. Thanks.
Any second of that view?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members. We will try to do as we have requested. Honorable members, one issue before we go. Mashaule, again, I know that you are one of the members affected. We will be attending to this problem that is persistent, and it has again been brought to my attention, the issue of the traveling. I think we will be taking up the issue both with the House Chair and the senior management with regards to the mode of transport or shuttle service that we are being provided with. I'm told also now is yourself and Honorable Zongula as members were subjected to the same treatment. We are taking up the matter. We will see what is the response. On that note, honorable members, the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much.
Harry?
Yes, Honorable Malem.
I'm listening.
Sorry, Chair. I just wanted to get some clarity about the program for Friday.
Oh. Are
yes, I'm listening, Chair. Mr. Malem.
Program for Friday?
Yeah.
The department will be responding on the the AXA presentation, the South African Human Rights Commission, and the issues relating to Makua and Wamua, and also we'll be dealing with the UPRD bill.
Okay, so the gas amendment bill, which has been withdrawn, is no longer on the program.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Withdrawn, Honorable Maile.
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, honorable members. At least there's clarity. The meeting stands adjourned.
Chair, you stay behind, eh?
Oh, I was almost leaving you.
It's still early, Chair.
Okay. Hey, I've got along, huh? Bye-bye, Madam Matogwe, and Maynir Bilankulu, and Maynir Kula.
Bye-bye, Chair.
Bye-bye, Babunku Bilankulu. You see, when these people are leaving a gadget on, they don't even realize that you can help by taking them out, Ari or Ayanda.